Let's learn about cracking the code of Silicon Valley and the importance of diversifying tech with two gentlemen who know about the incredible power of diversity. Ali Partovi is an Iranian-American entrepreneur and an angel investor best known as a co-founder of Code.org, I Like and Link Exchange. He was an early advisor at Dropbox and backed Airbnb, Dropbox, Facebook, and Uber. Debo Olaosebikan, I hope I pronounced that right, Debo. If not, please forgive me, is the founder and CTO at Gigster, a platform that helps companies expand their ability to innovate by building dynamic teams made up of top global talent who create industry-changing custom software. Guys, it's over to you.
Ali, really good to see you. It's been a while.
You too. So good to see you again, Debo.
Awesome. The past few months have been really interesting for everyone all over the world. I'm just curious how you've been adapting to COVID and remote work.
Yeah, it's been great. I'd say that the pandemic has broken down a lot of barriers and a lot of geographic barriers, for example. And I think we're going to emerge from it stronger than before. It's forced me to face things that I might have been insecure about before, like working without an office and things like that. At the end of the day, it's going to make us a stronger company.
And like fundraising especially is one of these things where people assume you have to be really close and you have to kind of be there physically. How has that evolved? How have you seen that play out? Is it better, worse, different in interesting ways? Or?
Yeah, I think we've enjoyed a special advantage because Neo's entire philosophy is to build long-term relationships, sometimes for years before somebody might start a company. And so often the entrepreneurs that we're backing are people we've known since they were in college 2 years ago. Yeah.
And that's interesting because ever since I've known you, it seems like this has been really core to what you believe, to just like personal relationships and just the power of relationships and people and community. Can you just tell us a little bit where that comes from and why that's so important?
Yeah, I remember when I was 26 when I sold my first startup. And at that time, my twin brother was starting his first company. And he asked me what were the 3 most important lessons that I had learned that I could pass on to him as a new founder of a company. And I thought through all of our mistakes or best decisions, and I summarized it as number 1, hire great people. Number 2, hire great people. Number 3, hire great people.
Great.
You've heard me say this before, and this mantra of hiring great people is something that it extends beyond hiring. I've applied that to almost anything I do, and certainly in terms of investing, I've made so many investing mistakes, and oftentimes when I look back, the things I wish I had the things that I wish I had invested in are the deals where I knew somebody was brilliant and I had too much hubris and didn't see the business idea or didn't invest in them because I didn't believe in their idea, even though I knew the person was great. And the things I regret investing in are the things where I might have fallen in love with the idea and not been as rigorous about vetting the person. Neo is all about investing in people, and it's about building long-term human relationships, evaluating people, and putting that front and center.
Do you have any kind of specific stories maybe to share where either you missed something because you didn't pay enough attention to the people, or the other way around?
Oh yeah, I have plenty of those. Some salient ones, again, when I was 26 and had just sold my first startup, there was a younger engineer who worked for us as a contractor named Max Levchin. And he was brilliant. I mean, anytime he entered the building, people, would be like, oh my gosh, it's Max. Everyone knew Max was starting a startup, but the original business idea for PayPal was, wasn't as well formed. It was a little bit gimmicky, and I could have had a chance to invest in that company and didn't because of that idea didn't seem as well formed. And similar time period, one of my smartest friends from college emailed a group of us saying that he was finally going to do the Silicon Valley thing and do a startup with his friends Larry and Sergey, and he was going to be the first employee of Google. Could anyone like myself provide advice or early funding or so on? And Google had no like business plan or business model initially. It was like a great algorithm and basically didn't engage at all. Wow. And that's certainly something I regret.
Yeah. And that certainly will. Those two examples certainly seem like they were enough to really drive home that lesson, right?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. So what kind of advice do you have for people who are not necessarily Silicon Valley natives, who are outsiders trying to break in or trying to build a network, trying to get to meet great people, to build these long-term relationships with? How do people break in?
Yeah, well, this idea of breaking in, I think it's interesting because the era of COVID is changing things, right? I think because now Silicon Valley is itself expanding out. Yeah, Silicon Valley is not a place to break into anymore. I think I spoke at the very first South Summit, so it's really exciting to be back here. And I think I said something there where like the statement I made then was that Silicon Valley has two meanings. One meaning is it's a place, but the other meaning is it's an idea and a approach to doing things. And I think that's still true, and it makes no difference if you're here in California or in New York or Hawaii or Europe. I think what matters are the networks of people, and those connections have remained, I think, as important, if not more important than ever. So in terms of how to network and how to break into the network, I'd say on that also I have somewhat of a different view. I actually don't like to use the word networking as a verb because it implies trying to gain something for yourself and it almost has a selfish tone to it. I prefer to think of how to lift up others and look for how can you help other people. You can always find somebody that can use your help, and I've generally tried to have that as my own sort of guiding principle with networking, is looking for, in every interaction I try to give more than I receive, and although that might seem counterintuitive, I think in the long run that is also how to benefit yourself the most. And certainly for me, by far the greatest reward is to see somebody who I lifted up in some way grow to become much bigger than myself in time. And I've been really privileged to have had many examples of that in my career.
Awesome.
Hopefully, including one right here. And not that you've ever needed any help, but we invested in you. You had already had a successful first startup. Can you tell me a little bit about like what was your path from university to Silicon Valley?
I left Cornell. I left my PhD in physics to come out to Silicon Valley, and I didn't really know anyone here. So I completely agree with what you were saying about kind of building value and looking at how you could help others. When I came to Silicon Valley, I would have to just get started doing things. And if I did things and built cool things, built useful things, I would attract others to me. And especially if those things were helpful to others. So that's kind of how I got started. And I built a company worked on a company called Gigster that helps, it's a marketplace for connecting software developers who want work to companies looking for these software developers. And my latest latest company I'm working on, interestingly, I actually met my co-founder in my PhD at Cornell. We were in the same, physics photonics group at Cornell, and we've known each other for over a decade. And so it's kind of a combination of long-term relationships and just adding value and doing things. It looks like Neo does a really, really good job of like helping folks in college really harness these relationships and become better versions of themselves, and just like really learn what it is that they want to be, and that's been super fascinating to me. So maybe you can speak a little bit about that. I've been fortunate to have really strong collaborator from college, but I think you have hundreds of similar stories. So maybe you can share a little bit about how that works.
The heartbeat of NEO is around college students, and revolves around an annual cycle where we interview hundreds of students from all over North America and try to identify what we think are the top 50 or so most promising computer science students. That age is that when someone is 20, 21 years old, there's no ceiling. The potential is, potentially unlimited, is limited only by their imagination and maybe the skills they might have developed in terms of technical skills. And college, as you mentioned, is also just such a unique environment for people to form relationships and to be pushed by each other to excel. And I very much believe that you can spot potential at a very young age, and I have made it the goal of my life and of my firm to identify really high potential people and then help them maximize and realize that potential.
And what do you see NEO 10 years from now?
10 years from now. So I don't want it to become much bigger, so to speak. I mean, this already feels big. Right. I think I hope it to remain very prestigious and very intimate, and but also very meritocratic. So we're not selecting people based on their pedigree of where their diploma is from or what college. Our interview process is based on technical skills, and in fact we go through extra effort to identify people from backgrounds that might be underrepresented or untapped. We go through extra effort to try to interview more women and more people of color, because I think of it as, I hope for the NEO community to mirror what the future of Silicon Valley is going to be.
So Ali, thanks so much for being here. Thanks.
Thank you, Debo. It's great to be back at South Summit.
Yep.
And it's always great to have you with us too, Ali, and thank you, Debo. I'm sure you know that a lot of the secret sauce of Silicon Valley is the networking and having access to the right people at the right time. But how can you connect with the right people when so many events and so much travel has been canceled? Well, I have a good tip for you. Check out the South Summit 2020 online platform, and you can connect with people who will change your life.